Under the GAP HQ umbrella, 5 dynamic companies work in harmony to create lasting impact. Through graduate associate professionals, we're bridging the gap between academic knowledge and industry practices, nurturing the next generation of sustainable development leaders. Beyond our core services, GAP HQ offers state-of-the-art venues designed for connection and growth. Our versatile spaces host everything from corporate conferences and workshops to educational programs and networking events, providing the perfect setting for knowledge sharing and professional development. The International Center for Sustainable Built Environment pioneers sustainable design solutions. Our multifunctional civil engineering consultancy ensures every project meets the highest standards of sustainability, safety, and quality. Lanka AAC Block offers eco-friendly, lightweight construction solutions using fly ash from the Norachole power plant, promoting sustainability and energy efficiency in modern building practices. GAP HQ, where innovation meets sustainability.
Hello. Ken. I think Sadipa, who was the host, has a difficulty in joining until she start. Let me welcome you all on behalf of the GAP headquarters. Good evening, everybody. It is my great pleasure to open the Nature Talk 2025. It is a webinar series. There is a space for where you listen and get inspired by the nature. I'm truly delighted to see so many students, academic and professional, and the nature lovers as coming together to share the purpose. Today is a very special day, not only hearing from one of the leading, most respected environmental voice, that is Professor Emeritus Sarath Kotagama, but also we are setting the stage for something huge. This entire journey started with the supporting from the Indian Sri Lanka Foundation with the help of the Indian High Commission of Sri Lanka. They encourage providing the grant to start the research as well as dissemination on the biomimicry. So last year we started the first international conference on the biomimicry for the sustainability. And we are going to have the second international on biomimicry for the sustainability that will be held in 26-27 September in Colombo. During this conference, we try to bring the researchers in the area of the biomimicry, the nature-inspired solution, engineers, scientists, educators, and policymakers to explore how nature can help to our problem, to design the solution for the energy, climate, agriculture, cities, health, and beyond. And there, I have prepared some slide to share with you. Let me see for me to, yeah. Let me share the slide. Hope you can see my slide. I'm sorry about it. It is about the second international conference on the biomimicry for sustainability, 2025. Right. And that will be held in the 26-27 September 2025 in Colombo. And you see that our co-chairs, myself and Professor Sarath Kotagama, Dr. Kinkini Hemachandra and Dr. Chetika Abenayaka and Dr. Panduka Neluwala. And we have dates for the paper call, that is the 31st May. You can either submit the full paper or abstract. And there will be a continuously webinar series, and there will be a workshop and the exhibition during the conference. And these are the themes: climate resilience and sustainable cities, and renewable energy and circular economy, and AI and digital biomimicry for the future technologies, biomimicry and health and Ayurvedic and biotechnology, and agriculture, food security and water conservation, business policy and economic and green finance, marine ecology and the blue economy, and of course the tourism also. And selected the papers from this conference will be published in the Spring Nature along with the Candy Conference. And there are another opportunity. Spring Nature has informed us there are very few books has been published on the biomimicry in the world. Therefore, they invited us to write a book on the biomimicry for the sustainability. So out of the submitted papers which are relevant to the book, we will be selected and expand in the publish the book with the Spring Nature. And coming back to the 31st June 2025, the deadline for the either you can submit the abstract or the full paper. And also I just like to remind that the 16th International Conference on Sustainable Built Environment 2025 and the next Gen Innovation for the Advancement, which is aligned with the 75th anniversary celebration of the Faculty of Engineering. We will work together, and you can submit the abstract and full paper for that one. With that, I would like to thank you all for participation. I hope that you will have a very good insight of the biomimicry and the understanding this one. Whichever you are areas you are working, you will be able to compile and submit to the paper, and whereby we will see how the biomimicry can help to the sustainable development of the nation. With that, I would like to conclude my welcome scheme. Thank you very much again for everybody. Sadipa,
hello. Sir, I think I can, I'm audible now, sir?
Yeah, you are.
Can you hear? Okay,
yes, I can hear you.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for your warm welcoming. So, actually, you are the who has been driving force behind this entire initiative, a visionary academic, passionate engineer, and a true advocate for sustainability-led innovation in Sri Lanka. So again, thank you very much, sir. And now it's my absolute honor to introduce tonight's featured speaker, Emeritus Professor Sarath Kotagama, a name that need no introduction in Sri Lanka's environmental circle. So Professor Kotagama is not only beloved educator and ornithologist, but a true champion for biodiversity conservation. He has inspired generations through his work in ecology, wildlife policy, and environmental education. Professor Sarath Kotagama is an Emeritus Professor in Environmental Science, the Department of Zoology, University of Colombo, Sri Lanka, and he is a former Director, Department of Wildlife Conservation of Sri Lanka. Also, he is a co-chair of the International Conference on Biomimicry for Sustainability 2025. He was the recipient of many awards for his excellent. He received President Science Award for 2006 to 2012 for science publication of international standards. So today he'll be sharing his thought on nature-inspired solution for sustainability and why listening to nature may be the key solving the challenge we face in our changing world. So without further ado, I warmly welcome to Professor Sarath Kotagama. Dear sir, over to you.
Thank you, Iboan. I hope you're hearing me.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, after a little bit of a technical hitch, I think we are on track. So let me commence with sharing the slide pack. Right, I think we are okay. Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Right, okay. So this is Albert Einstein having said something: we can't solve problems by using the same kind of thinking we used when we created them. So in a way, when we are going into looking at the new areas that we are going to be discussing today, as mentioned by Professor Anjit Sanayaka on biomimicry and nature-inspired solutions, it is somewhat very interesting because humankind has always been inspired by nature and looked at various kinds of opportunities and devices that was changed to make our life very much different from the original Homo sapien that evolved some 2.5 million years ago. And we know that most of these things happen by being inspired while migrating, while moving from one area to another area, traditionally looking for food, which had been the case somewhere, we are told, in the Middle East, and noticing that seed husk was actually flying across their pathway, let's say for argument's sake from east to west, but it was flying across their pathway while they were traveling north-south. So being inquisitive as humans we are, the question was asked, why are we going, let's say, south when the husk is moving to the east from the west? And that is the inspiration that triggered the idea that we should not be going to the south, but we should be going to the west, because that is where the husk is coming from and the wind is taking it across our pathway towards the east. So we decided, humans decided to change the path and move towards the west. And having gone that way, they had come to a marsh, a wetland, which was containing the seeds or the food that was to be sought somewhere down south. So why must we have been doing this all the time when everything is here? And it has been there for some time and it is still there. So mankind of that time, this is 12,000, 10,000 years ago, decided we will stop going to the south. We will stop at this location where the wetland exists. And since the, let's say for argument, it's been said some kind of wheat, flour, wheat seed a grain, let's say a grain, let's sit with it and start to harness it, harvest it, and use it for ourselves. And thus it became the initiation of the so-called agri lifestyle that we have today become one of the major creators or major changes of the landscape in the world. But you will now remember that all people, all humans prior to this event of something that happened 12,000 years ago have always lived in caves, which were natural products resulting from certain environmental and or landscape change. Maybe with drippleges, as we know happened in Sri Lanka, because we know that even in Sri Lanka, cave were the places where the people lived, and they did create drippleges to prevent the water from coming down into the cave, but dripping down in front of the cave. Now here we are in the open landscape, close to the food that we were looking for at that time. We had to not just only think of how we were going to get protected from the elements of nature, and the elements of nature are referred to as the sun, the wind, and the rain. These are going to pound on us, are going to affect us, and that is what we prevented ourselves from being inside the cave. In addition, we are now in the open landscape. It brings to us another factor, which is protection from other organisms, other living beings that also did exist at that time in the planet. Because if you know, humans are just at the tip of the end of the calendar. We are not those who evolved at the beginning of the calendar. We are the ones who evolved at the end of the calendar, somewhere at around 12 midnight of the calendar year. So before us, many organisms have come on to being on the planet, and they were surviving pretty well. And here we were struggling, and we have now found a new means for the future in the open plain next to a wetland where the grains were growing. But we had to protect the grain, and we had to protect ourselves from the elements of nature. Again, we were inspired by nature. We saw some organisms, we are told, covering themselves when it rains by holding plants above their head. So that apparently was the beginning of the shelter that we have come to build for ourselves in the present. But of course, the shelter of just holding a leaf above your head, or some branches above your head, or just bringing some branches together and creating a structure and covering it with leaves, which evolved gradually, and where we are today are completely different. But every action that we have taken thereafter, even in the sense of ensuring that our food is going to be permanently available for us through the natural process, we have been inspired by some events and some things that we saw in nature. Rainfall comes to us. We can't create it. It comes to us. Even though we try to seed the clouds and get the rain when we want today, because of the technological advances that we have enabled ourselves to enjoy, the natural world, the rainfall comes down. But we need to collect the rainfall if you want to keep the water during the times when the rain doesn't come, and so on. How do you do that? We saw that the rains collect in puddles. We saw that the rains collect in depressions on the earth. And we thought, why not? Why must we just wait for the natural depression to collect the water? Why can't we create a depression and collect the water? Yes, we could. And behold, we created the wells, and so on. So these are very interesting when you keep reading the history of mankind and how he has become what he is today. I would not be mistaken to say that more than 99% of our success on this planet, if you want to call yourself successful despite all the problems that we have created as a result, is because we thought differently, inspired by nature. We were inspired by what we saw. We were inspired by what we heard. We were inspired by seeing some things happening in nature where other animals were interacting with nature, and so on. So what I'm going to do today is try to provide for you what we used to call in the good old days before the 1989 word biomimicry came into the vocabulary. Because we have been doing that in this country. We have been inspiring our students to look into nature and try to develop ideas into the future. In fact, the March for Conservation and Field Ornithology Group of Sri Lanka that existed, which does still exist, Field Ornithology Group in Colombo, had a program for engineering and architecture and, let's say, students from University of Moratuwa. Take them into Singaraja for 3-4 days. The theme was inspirations from nature. Because we know engineers and techno people are very much lab-based, or they were locked up in the laboratories, in the halls, mechanical in sense. So we wanted them to get out of that frame, to make them more cozier and healthier and think differently. Now those programs over time have now come to be recognized with technical words like biomimicry, which happened in 80s, 89, if I can recall, or 86. Janie and Bison came up with the word, and today we are locked up and we try to understand what it is. And there is a lot of examples. I will not go through all of them, but I would like to provide the philosophy of this thinking so that we would still continue to become and to use this into the future. So today, biomimicry and nature-based solutions, which are two very significantly important directions which are necessary for the techno people and for the mechano people to start thinking differently for the future. Because the future is what we believe is in sustainable development, and if we are to achieve that, we need to think of this. So a regenerative world is possible despite all what we have done. And nature is the best and only working model for regenerative we have. And because life's solutions are multifunctional, nature's blueprints help us efficiently tackle multi-sustainability challenges at once, such as climate regulation, biodiversity, water, and material cycling. So this is the dream that you will see in most of the architectural and landscape designers and building construction people across the world in response to trying to reduce the impact of climate change and greening the cities and so on. So how to think nature is what we need to first cultivate in our minds. We see what is around us, but are you really seeing what is around you in a way that is different from what is there, so that you can become a biomimicer, somebody who's going to use it, or a nature inspirer, or a nature used mechanic, or whatever in that sense. We can think about all of this if you are really interested. So identifying the real challenge, what do you want to accomplish, becomes the first part of our challenge. If you don't do that, what we see is just anything and just blank. We must know what we want. And then we say that even a drop of rain can be a huge factor of benefit. Then you have to be able to interpret what you see. Identify the functions and purposes of what you see. Because if you can identify the function and the purpose, maybe you will be able to manipulate it, change it to help to achieve the purposeful objective that we mankind wants. Then we ask, how does nature do that function? Because ultimately, our manipulation can destroy the function that we are seeing, and that is not what we want. We may want to duplicate it, we may want to change it, but we must also at the same time make sure that the functionality of what you are seeing in the manipulation or the change that you are trying to achieve is not lost. It may be still artificial, but ultimately we are not just doing it because it's a nice design. Not to say that we don't do it that way. We do it in textiles and in ornamental stuff. We do this designing part of it. But if you ask the ultimate question, why did you do that design? It is for a purposeful mind satisfaction or something that will bring benefit to us, mankind. So we need to discover the nature's genius, because if not, we will not be able to achieve the objective. So go for a walk outside and observe and brainstorm. That is the only way you can achieve the need for mimicry, the biomimics or nature-inspired solutions to be novel and new. Because we have a lot now. We want still you to do much more. It's not a finished product. There is much to do. Then we need to emulate, play and design with it and get the exact outcome to become what it is, which means brainstorming and conversing, coming to a point where we agree on what we really want at the end of the day. And of course, here you are, after having gone through all of this, having seen what is nature, having discussed the matter, what is there with colleagues and so on, and you have a creative design, if I may permit to be used that word, creative design of a mankind's ingenuity, but will it perform the purpose? So you need to evaluate it. And in the resulting evaluation, you will come to the situation of realizing that, okay. How? So approach in learning from nature then becomes the key element of your strategy. Awareness of the importance of nature. If you do not value what you have around you, then obviously you are never going to be able to become a biomimicker or a nature inspirer, because you don't care about it. And I would say that on the average, more than 90% of the people are that. For them, nature is just something that exists and nothing that really inspires the person. So we need to first think that it is important, be aware that this exists, appreciate it very much, respect, so that you do not conquer but understand what is there. Because if you look at much of what we have done to date with the planet Earth, is that we did not respect its originality, but we decided to change it to fulfill our satisfaction with no consideration of the consequences of what we were going to do. And today we are facing the problem. Of course, one must without doubt agree to the fact that all those things have benefited mankind to be different from what he was from the Stone Age. He has become different from being a hunter-gatherer to what was mentioned, let's say, by Professor Dissanayake as one of the subject areas for the incoming or seminar discussions and organizations, which is artificial intelligence. So AI, like most people think, will do everything. To me, is not that, but that is where we have come. This will also open your senses in a diverse way, trying to see what is not there, which you have not seen in the past, but to see something new in what you have been always seeing. It is not always, we say that if you keep looking at something all the time, it will turn white. That is what you should not allow it to be. You must make it see the diversity, the color shade, all of that forever. and through it be inspired so that you can become different. So natural innovations is what we are looking for. Borrowing ideas and solutions from nature and applying them for personal, technological, business, and environmental enhancements. That is what we are doing. From the beehives, technological agreement of a perfect hexagonal structure, to the floating seeds, and of course, I think everybody know the leaf, the Nelun leaf, we call the cleanest surface on the planet. And we know that many products have come out of it. Looking at the leaf through microscopic lenses, we know that the structure is that what makes it be what it is. And then we ask in the questions of whether we can create the leaping of a mite without breaking the legs and yet fall such a long distance away. Can we make it happen? Because the tick, it leaps across and falls maybe 5 feet, 10 feet away, or even less. But compared to the size and the distance it travels, the forces that are generated, when you put all of these things, if we try to do, we end up in tatters and pieces. How can this happen? It has to do something, not with just the mechanics, it has to do something with the material. So can we understand that structural material so that we can duplicate it? All of these things are happening. So how could nature be used? These just to give you examples. If we really look detail, energy, we saw it happening and we are doing it now. Bioenergy, solar we are converting and so on. Wind we are converting and so on. Waves we are converting and so on. Then for the human well-being, many of us are drinking medicine, allopathic medicines. If you think that these allopathic medicines have fallen to us from the sky, you are mistaken. They have all come to us through the initial observations and sometimes the accidental eating of certain substances, with no choice but to eat the fungi or fungus bread that was on the shelf after having been sick for a couple of days, provided us with the base for antibiotics and basically penicillin fungus. Today we have 4th or 5th generation antibiotics. Looking at how the antibiotics will affect the body or against the bacterial or the unneeded, not needed external organisms upsetting our body. All of that was possible primarily because we started seeing some things in nature. Even though it may have been accidental that when thunder and lightning was happening outside, the person who innovated the electrical conduct, Faraday, thought that he should close the door. He didn't think about anything about thundering and flashing. He went to close the door and got the shock in his life. And that triggered his mind too. Maybe that did the job. And today we have electricity and we have so many other things. So when you look at the origins, as I always say sometimes, if not for running out of the bathtub naked when the water spilled over Archimedes, would we have even thought of something that is going to spill over? And so on. So you have to be inspired by these actions. But to do that, you should have a mindset which is looking at all of these. All that has resulted in science and technological innovations today. And there are more. But this is all happening from nature. So that's why we are worried about the natural capital. That natural capital is the one that will trigger and provide us the incentives for the future. And of course, we need to educate like what is happening now. Provide this knowledge to most of you all so that you can be corrupt. Sorry for using that word. Why do I say to be corrupt, because we think that our education system is so good that we teach only those things that we need to teach and nothing else. So if anything else is what is being taught now, it must be wrong, it must be different, it must be a corrupt. But you need to have this corrupt thought in yourself if you have to be able to understand sometimes what is not seen in nature. Because we don't sometimes still have these subjects in our syllabus, do we? Think strongly. And we need to ensure that the products are managed properly into the future. And that is where the business people come in. And of course, that's a different subject on its own. So why should we emulate nature again? Organisms in nature face the same challenges we do, but they meet them sustainably. A tree is capable of pumping water depending on the height of the tree, right from the ground all the way to the top of the tree. It doesn't have a mechanical pump, but it has the energy and it has a physical parameters within the structure which enables the water to move all the way up the leaves and transpire also. 400 feet, 500 feet is nothing in the tropics, but it can be done. But can we then emulate that in some way in nature, and so on? So trying to handle the forces of nature for the benefit of mankind has always been part of our innovation. And that is there in multiple ways, and I don't want to keep going. Distribute energy safely. That's also some things that we are doing already. Sticking things together, gluing, moving water, as I said. Colors, multiplicity, from pigment colors to fluorescences to mechanical colors and UV colors, which we can't normally see with the eyes, are all that have come to be today. But in these innovative challenges that we have put ourselves into in the past, we have also created a lot of problems which are now the challenges for the future. The burning fossil fuel and the energy that we generated out of it changed our lifestyles tremendously to become what we are today. And we are so dependent on it. And yet we know it is one of the key primary causes for the current issues that are faced by mankind on this planet through the various types of problems that we are seeing. And the two most significant ones at this point of time, climate change and plastic pollution. We cannot run away from the effect. We need to tackle the effects. And that is why the challenge is very high. We are also feeling it gradually, and we did feel it extensively in 2019 when COVID came to be. Prior to COVID, we have had almost 36 emerging infectious diseases on this planet, but we were not threatened as COVID-19. But in COVID-19, we realized what it could become if a similar situation arose. COVID-19 may have been contained or brought under control. We violated our own scientific protective future processes to achieve that. That's a different story of its own. So I will hint to you and leave it so that you can discuss it among yourself. Ask yourself, how did we vaccinate ourselves within 10 years? When the WHO norm for introducing a vaccine into human society legislatively says a minimum of 10 years needed for the vaccine to be tested and certified. I leave it to you because it's a very, very interesting way that we did it. And that is the threat that and reaction that we may have if we do not recognize and live with nature in the right way. We have this massive issue with polythene today. So much so that we are looking for techno solutions. And we are told last year, November, we have Riskins from Japan coming up with a solution, which is enabling to dissolve the polythene, the plastic. And I think it is called HCT technology that is being looked into the future. Again, of course, it's not a technical solution. It is a nature-driven technical solution. Because in nature, there is one thing which we must all remember. Nothing is waste. Nothing is waste. Everything is recycled at its own pace, of course. Not at the human pace, but at nature's pace. So the production for the recycling through the natural process has its own rates, and it is not governed by us. It is governed by nature. So once we do understand that, you can see that any excess into nature is going to be a violation of the principles of recycling, and therefore it's going to be a problem. And we have enough of those. So let's not be continuing to do that, but how to resolve it. Understand nature better. Understand the cyclic naturalness of nature better, and you will not become the problem. So to emulate nature, you have to look at nature as the model. You have to look at it as the measure and mentor for the future. We can learn from nature, its form, from its processes, and the interactive system, which we call ecosystem. In nature, linear systems are far and between. They are all interlinked in a system. So the form structure, we can learn something, the processes, we can learn something, and from the network, we can learn something. That is when the word inspirations from nature, and I put in the current thinking of what is meant by biomimicry. From bios, meaning life, and mimesis meaning to imitate. That is how the word biomimicry came. So meaning to imitate bio, nature, is a discipline that studies nature's best ideas and then imitates these designs and processes to solve human problems. Studying a leaf to invent a better solar cell is an example. We are trying. We have not completed. We are trying hard to enable it to become the ultimate converter of sun into energy, because it does. It is innovation inspired by nature, but there are many ways also. Because biomimicry is just one of those innovations from nature. There are many more. So this is just a summary of all of those things. Unfortunately, we don't have the time to look at all of the different techno words that are here, but let's sound them. Bio-inspirations for innovation provides as bionics. It provides as a biomimetic. It provides biomechanics. Bio-inspiration for the human well-being through biophilic design, through biomorphic architecture and organic architecture. Regenerative designs. Then bio-inspiration for sustainability, biomimicry in large, bold letters, cradle-to-cradle designs, which came to us since 1992 from William Brungard and Michael, the two people who gave us this thought. Ecomimicry, mimicking ecological systems, permaculture are all going to help us. So today we are only locking ourselves with biomimicry, which is very much emulating form and process in nature. So these are a quick run because there are 50 fantastic examples in the learning from biomimicry example, and that will give us that background. emulating form, such as the Wilkinson's ear architecture, the construction, which comes from the nautilus mussel or bella, golubella. Emulating the process of filtration, aeration through John Todd ecological designs, which you can see here, water aeration and cleansing. Emulating the ecosystems for interconnectedness and interdependence in multiple ways comes to us from looking at coral reefs and how life and corals and all the organisms that are there are interconnected. The Hartberg Eco Park is the example here. Many examples that inspire from nature, just to give: the birds, the cocoons, and seahorses. We are all familiar with the zip, which came to us, you can see, from the bird feather. And today, we even don't bother to look at a bird feather. The Velcro that we use in multiple situations come to us from a plant. If you are from the back areas, in the village areas close to reservoirs, and if you walk on the drawdown area of a reservoir, Apella, you're definitely going to find these seed substances on your trousers or your sarong or on your feet. It is this, it's not the same substance that is there in the picture, but I'm giving you the local example, which gave us the fantastic Velcro that we are using. The structure of the bird wing, because the bird wing is very, very hollow, lightness with a shell outside, strutted in between to give the strength that is needed so that it will not break and take the stress of the flight, is the one for the wings of the plane. An earthworm colony or the earthworm gives us this fantastic piston type of movement, because if you look at the earthworm, it will push through the earth, initially going small and then pushing the big area, spreading it out and going forward. So this piston type of movement is today in the technology. We notice that when an octopus or a squid wants to get away from the predator, it will create a smoke screen, as you see here. And that smoke screen, is a very interesting way to get rid of the predator and move away, because the predator will get smoked out and the predator moves away. But today we are using that in multiple ways when we are attacking people or trying to get to some place without getting seen, smoke screens. The turtle shell looks very solid. It is very slow, but moving on pillars. And the hermit crab has a house as a protection from, again, predators and others, using the shell of a discarded mollusk on the beach. But where has it gone to? It is the model for all our tanks. Based on that too. Here we find a number of camouflaged organisms. Here, if you can see, is a frog mouth, one kind and another kind, but they are very well camouflaged. And in this flower, factually, there is a mantis here on the flower. It has a body which is exactly, that is the head of the mantis, and then you have the arms, and here is the body, exactly like the petals of the flower. Camouflaged, and therefore you get protected. We have been using these to camouflage the trucks that are in the open areas. We are used is to camouflage ourselves in the dresses that we use, and so on. The dandelion flower, when it blows, flies off in the atmosphere, floating away, giving us the idea of the parachute. Because it doesn't just float away and float just off into the sky. It just floats away into the sky and settles down somewhere. So that's all we also need. We don't want to crash down onto the ground. We need to settle down gradually onto the ground. The nautilus, which I showed you earlier, building structure. Buoyancy, floating. How do you want to float? How do you want to go down? Very simple, fill water in the vessels and that. This is done by nautilus and many other mollusks that are in the ocean, which they fill the water into their body and float down, and at the same time they push the water out of their body and create the vacuum which brings them up. Buoyancy provides all of this, and we have put that in the submarines. The dolphin has a very unique communication gadget up here. We have now come to use it. We have studied it extensively. We have not perfected it yet, but we know the dolphins communicate with each other in the pods that they move around, and through that we are trying to communicate inside water, because we need a device. On land or in the air, we know how to communicate. The vibrations take it. Inside the water, we know the sound vibrations in the water is very amplified, but we need to see how it can get communicated like the dolphins. So using the sonar system that the dolphins and some of the sharks and some of the fish and the lateral lines of the fish and some of the whales and so on are doing is what is now part of the story of our submarines and some things. The whirling structure of the flower has been used to mix substances in our mixers and also in cement and so on and so forth. The colors in your screen, the color on my screen, the color on your screen, on your iPad, all of these, your iPod, are all that came to be from the butterfly wing. How did the butterfly be able to provide such fantastic colors on the surface of the wing? We know it's a microstructures, but that enabled us to create the low-powered systems that we had. The boxfish provided us the concept of a safe vehicle that if it crashes is not going to crumble into pieces through the release of the momentum that is collected when you speed. The boxfish is the one that gave us all of that. And also the speed, the drag reduction, all of that the boxfish gave us. Sensitivity, infrared, it all came from these so-called vicious pythons, big vipers, the vipers, sorry. For them to detect their food, which are warm-bodied at most points, because all animals do just have a temperature, though we call cold-blooded, warm-blooded, even the cold-blooded has some temperature, but that temperature needs to be detected if you are feeding on a frog or you're feeding on mice or something. How did it happen? Because they have pits which you can see, which can detect these infrared sensors. Today we have all these things in airports and many other places in security devices as that. The suckers of the octopus ended up being the suckers that we are using on ground mats, on shifting and changing huge panes of glasses from one place to another, and so on and so forth. Medicine, how to get into the skin, into the body without injecting huge wounds. The leech has done it, because of course when the leech drops off, you have a lot of blood coming out because it leaves behind hirudin, which is an anticoagulant, and that way the blood doesn't clot. So we have a chemical, hirudin, which can function as an anticoagulant, and we have an organism which can penetrate into the skin of the individual without a massive damage. All of these and medical factors have all changed our lives in multiple ways. This rodent has a very unique feature. Hairless tooth rodent, vulnerable to the pain of acid, is invulnerable to the pain of acid and chili pepper. That's very interesting, so that you don't get burnt from acids or from chilies. So how does it resist that pain? Because it does change the surface of the skin in some way or the other, but it has a mechanism. So these are being studied. The mole rat does it. So in order to reduce the chronic pains, scientists are now looking at the mole rat to find the change of color by the chameleon, the climbing of coconut trees to pluck coconuts, the coconut crab. We have a technology which is affixed onto the feet of the human coconut climbers to be enabled to go up the coconut tree. If you look at the traditional way that we climb the coconut tree using the loop, is somewhat closer to this, but today we have a techno product which is doing this, a technological product. Then from the manta ray, how to walk through. So we are only limited by our dreams. If we allow ourselves to dream and move away from being stuck, looking at nature, seeing things and interpreting them and asking the questions, all of these things, we can mime a lot for the benefit of mankind for the future. The other part that which I want to take time today quickly is another new one that came to us around 2002 onwards. I will just summarize some of this based on the time that we have, is nature-based solutions. It is also a mime in a way, though we don't put it in the package of biomimicry. It is somewhat inspired by nature. As I said, it came to us around 2002. So under the extreme weather situations, we need to see how we can solve problems. It's a novel concept defined as actions inspired, again, inspired by, supported by, and copied from nature. So there are subtle differences, technological solutions and nature-inspired broad-scale solutions. Let's put it that way. Deploy various natural features and processes in a resource-efficient and sustainable manner. Are adapted to local systems into diverse spatial scales, redefining the role of nature in urban, rural, natural environments, and face social, environmental, and economic challenges leading to multiple benefits and supporting sustainable development and resilience. The idea of nature-based solutions came to be, I would put it as something like a macro level solutions from nature. Biomimicry is something like a micro level solutions from nature. Not exactly micro in sense, but you're seeing something there, mechanical, let's say, and doing it. While nature-based solutions, you are looking at the ecosystem as such. You are looking broadly and trying to find solutions in it. It's a very interesting way to look at things. Nature-based solutions harness the power and sophistication of nature to turn environmental, social, and economic challenges into innovative opportunities. They can address a variety of societal challenges in sustainable ways with the potential to contribute to green growth, future-proofing society, fostering citizens' well-being, providing business opportunities. Are actions which are inspired by, supported by, or copied from nature. They have tremendous potential to be energy and resource efficient and resilient to change. But to be successful, they must be adapted to local conditions. Result in multiple co-benefits to health, the economy, society, and the environment. And thus they can represent more efficient and cost-effective solutions than more traditional approaches. So why nature-based solutions now? I don't want to dwell into the details because obviously we have made a lot of mistakes without looking into nature the way it should, the way it is, and to benefit from it over the years in the name of development. And we need to rectify this. So we are using the opportunity to do this because we are growing aware of the value of nature through the realization that we are losing it. And more importantly, because I say more importantly, because that is where most of the people are thinking all the time. How can you make a quick buck? Where can you make the money? So there are a lot of business opportunities in these new innovations and directions. lot. So as I said, we start in 2002 and gradually we come into that, and by 2019 we are very much into it, and today we are very wide. So basically the difference you have to understand, mimicry is very much to do with mechanical, small, not in terms of small, but in terms of global small, and nature-based solutions is the macro changes of the systems around us, the ecosystems thing. So a lot of people are working on it. I am not going to go into the details here. As I said, we will make available this information and literature to you, but my job here is to stimulate you. As I believe most of you are techno students in some way or the other, and therefore to understand. So we are inspired by, supported by, or copied from nature. Maintain and enhancing natural capital as a basis for nature-based solutions. Address a variety of societal challenges. Potential to be cost-effective, resources and energy efficient and resilient to change. Potential to contribute to green growth, future-proofing society, fostering citizens' well-being and human health, providing business opportunity, which is always the case. So you should be inspired by, supported by, or copied by nature. It sounds very much similar to biomimicry, but as I said, it is the magnitude and the degree of manipulation and the size of manipulation. Understanding NBS provides you an address a variety of societal changes. A lot of examples are there. In fact, Sri Lanka became one of the key countries in the world where NBS has been used extensively with the Metro Colombo wetland system, trying to ensure that Colombo doesn't get flooded every time it rains. Ultimately went to the understanding that we need to protect the wetlands for the purpose. And it is only through that we can ensure that Colombo is not going to get flooded every time there's a heavy rain. So that's where the NBS answer came to Sri Lanka very clearly, right? Clicking all of these things, and this is just to give you a quick run of the benefits of nature-based solutions like biomimicry. Intervention delivers an effective solution to a major global challenge using nature. Interventions provides biodiversity benefits in terms of world-managed ecosystems. The interventions is cost-effective relative to other solutions. The rationale behind the interventions can be easily and compellingly communicated. The interventions can be measured, verified, and replicated. The interventions respects and reinforces communities' rights over natural resources. The interventions harness both public, private sources and funding. Now, the sixth one, respects, reinforces community rights and over natural resources, is one of the key elements that differ biomimicry from nature-based solutions, because biomimicry is a product development. Nature-based solutions is nature being solved, the problem solved in nature. So nature does not belong to a person there. It is social. So that's a key difference. So multiple benefits, again, we need to think differently. The old thinking, construct, operational and maintenance cost, single benefit, like even flood protection, storm management, all of that. But in the new thinking, you have healthier environments, enhanced wildlife habitat, improved water quality and quantity, strong economics, because you are going to increase tourism also. Systems can be made for tour products, increase community appeal and property values, and so on. A more resilient communities, better ties in society, climate resilience and mitigation, reduce the flood risk, as I just mentioned, Metro Colombo, and more healthier communities because you have a physical and mental health through visiting these locations and benefiting from what is there. There are still many challenges which we have to think about, but if we learn good practices and lessons learned, we can always go forward. So the way forward, strengthening knowledge and partnership, creating new tools that will help our task teams to mainstream nature-based solutions and biomimicry in DRM and flood risk, disaster risk management and flood risk reduction projects. You can see because it's magno level, and that is why with a nature-based solutions, biomimicry is somewhat, let's say, put it in a way, simpler way, instrumental changes, establish mechanisms that would allow to identify nature-based solutions opportunities early in any project cycle, mobilizing additional resources for technical assistance. So there are many details can offer basically. Right. In conclusion, so we know that what is sustainability, and then we will see what we said so far. Capacity to endure. In ecological word, describe how biological systems remain diverse and productive over time. Long-lived and healthy wetlands and forests are examples of sustainable biological systems. For humans, sustainability is the potential for long-term maintenance of well-being, which has ecologically, economically, politically, and cultural dimensions. So if we are to go forward in the so-called development process that we are very much thinking is the only way to make our lives better than what we were, and recognizing the fact that it has resulted in a lot of problems that are in fact threatening the global systems and mankind on the planet, we need to look at alternatives which can be beneficial, which are not going to create another problem, which are going to be minimizing the existing problems in some way or the other. And for that reason, for sustainability into the future of meeting the 2030 SDG targets, we need to think seriously. Two of the ideas, many as you saw, two of the ideas, which are both somewhat related to being inspired from nature, which is biomimicry and system-based, nature-based solutions. So I leave you with those two thoughts to achieve sustainability. Any questions? And I would try to answer. Regret very much for the delay when we started, because we had a little bit of a technical hitch here and there. But that is not unusual for me, because I always say, because I always define technology as that which doesn't come to you when you want it. There is something that happens always. So to me, it is not a problem. But for many of you all who were waiting in the box, or what you call waiting room, sorry, we didn't mean to do that. But I hope I have given you some thoughts, some food for thought. Please do digest it and become a happier and a healthier person into the future. Thank you very much. So open for questions if you want to. I think we can permit a couple, I believe. Sadipa? Can't see her. Is she around? I do hope you all heard me, because I never checked back to find out whether you can hear me. I think there's an opportunity in the chat box also. We see 413 persons, which is really fantastic. Great job by the organizers. You don't have any?
Hello, sir. I'm
Yes.
hello, sir. I'm
Yeah.
I'm a student following the environment science degree program. I
Uh-huh.
was just wondering, I was really inspired by your lecture, and I was wondering whether if I could get more knowledge or do my higher studies on nature-based solutions, so that I can bring out new solutions in future, because I'm a person who's really passionate and who's wanting to bring out certain solutions to the.
Yes, Pumi, it is definitely possible, but I am not sure whether there are nature-based solution degrees in this country, but I am sure there is outside. I think Deakin University, I think Professor Disanayaka might be able to give you a better idea. Within the country, yes, you should either work as a master's program, because the graduate programs don't give very much other than just a cursory introduction. I think Deakin University has nature-based solutions courses. Maybe Professor Ranjit can update you, but definitely you should follow your passion, because that's one way of ensuring to be satisfied, happy, and contributing.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Professor. Thank you, Professor. Excellent presentation. I
Ah,
hope we can
Ifam,
write
you're
some
still
articles on
around.
these things.
Huh? You can put something on the paper, no?
Very well done, Professor.
Right. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Thank you.
It's very nice, Professor.
Thank you. Thank you a lot, Nivam. Thank you. You're always supportive of
Hello,
us.
sir.
Yes.
My question
Wait. Now people are overlapping. Yes, Jayanta. There was somebody who was going to speak, so it did overlap. Maybe yes, Jayanta. Oh no,
Yes.
right. Okay. Now start.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, sir. I'm an agriculture instructor. I observed some the blister beetles. It's damage to flower, but the beetle are very smoothly flying. So that mechanism, how to use the our any product in the mechanical the helicopter.
Well, the wing, the wings of beetle movements of wings of the beats of the wings of insects have been used in biomimicking, like the helicopter and other, like even the drone idea is somewhat like a movement of the insects. So it has been used. People have studied it and developed it into products on time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, Jayanta. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Presentation as always. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you very much.
Sir, thank you. I'm
Sure.
a student
Yes.
at Open University.
Yes.
As a conservationist, could you kindly share what aspect of species in nature that deeply inspired your work and conservation and education?
No, wait. I didn't get your first part. You have to repeat it slowly. Huh?
Could you kindly share what
Yeah.
aspect of species in nature that deeply inspired your work in conservation and education?
What inspired me? Because I come from the rural area, no, right? I am a jungle boy, right? The problem is when you are a city boy, you don't know what nature is, right? If you have been brought up in a city biased system, so would you mind to tell me where you are from?
I am from Avissavelle.
So Avissavelle is somewhat rural, no, right?
Yeah.
So the problem we have in this country and anywhere else, I would say most countries in the world, is that children are not allowed to become part of nature. Now, I am fortunate because my parents, being in the Hadda Pitisar, in the backward areas of the country, right, in the midst of almost jungle area, right, with almost zero development that existed even at that time, we had the opportunities of running in the wild. And therefore, we sort of became a wild appreciated person. I appreciate the wilderness through those experiences. And I would say, number two is the school that I went for. My school always promoted us to be nature biased, which is not the case in city schools, or for that matter, in the present current rural schools. You're not supposed to be part of nature. You're always put within the classroom and expected to cover all what is being pumped down your throat, and which cannot be done in the time frame that is available. And therefore, you have to go out of school and again locked up in some room somewhere, tuition. So where do you appreciate nature then? When you're walking home or coming back, and most of the time, even that, you will be probably traveling by bus. You are very fortunate if you are away from the city and learning. Avisavela, whatever school you went, maybe from the bus halt, you may have walked home. If not, you would have got yourself dropped at home. So when you look at it, a majority of the students today are driven away from nature. They are not even allowed to be part of nature because the parents also don't have the nick or the knack of being part of nature. You have to be that. Then don't worry, you become part of it. But it doesn't go away from you. So even if you become an adult, you can still merge with nature very interestingly if you have the need and desire for doing so. So if you have not had it in your childhood, don't think that it is not going to work. So because I had it in my childhood, I had it in my school, and it became my desire to be part of it. And therefore, I developed myself to end doing what I like doing. And that is my third point, which I always tell all the students. You ask yourself very sincerely at this age, are you doing what you wanted to do? When did you decide what you wanted to do, what you are doing now? Was it when you are a child? You might say, well, we didn't have the knowledge to decide when we were a child. No, don't think so. I decided when I was 13 years old as to what I wanted to be. And that's why I am happy being what I am. Most of the people in this country, the children don't decide. It's the parents who decide. The children just become nuts and bolts in the system. So sad. But if you are keen and wanting to break away, you can. You should. Because that is also one of the key elements of mankind, humans, which is not available and possible for most animals on the planet. So use of it, Shivani. That is it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Professor.
Ajit.
Yeah. So then you ran through the environment and then the nature, and then later you shared your experiences and all, and then you always guided us to go, run through the nature. Thank you very much for the inspiring lecture, as you did it in late 80s, and then now
Thank
also
you.
you are inspiring us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Atula. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Professor Kotagama. I am Professor Veerasinghe here. Thank you very much for your interesting presentation.
Thank you.
I just want to go back to the creation of the man.
Yes.
It has been initiated with the artificial, when all the animals were taking their natural things for their survival, at the creation of the man, that they started with the stick, and that created this physical world.
Yeah.
Now the physical world is dominating, and we are now the slaves of that. And as Hofskin says, that our very technology may leads us to increase the destruction of this planet. Maybe now they are forecasting that next 200, 300 years, maybe the world will be end. Yeah. So that with the biomimicry instinct and other thing, that how we can turn back the man into the nature and get into the nature of another thing. Because this artificial development may not help the mankind to be survive. What do you think about?
Yeah, I think your key word is what you just mentioned, artificial development. Yes. We have to move away from the artificiality that we have created to become what we are. So the answer is exactly in the words that you used, and the direction is there. We became artificial. If we remain natural, maybe we would not come here to be what we are today, which also you mentioned while you were trying to ask for the answer. But then that would also mean that we have undermined our own selves, the capacity that we have over the other animals, which is to experience the past, live the present, and decide the future. You see, no other organism on the planet has this capacity. Now, when we lived in the past, we were empowered, or we managed to get ourselves empowered with the tools like what you just mentioned, a stick, to change the present. If we had been a little more wiser, maybe, I don't know, maybe it would have not been a destructive stick for the future.
Yeah.
So how we should not be using that destructive stick for the future, which is the technology, let's say, the innovations that we have done, is the challenge that humankind have, and it is only the humankind who can solve that, not any other animal. So we have to rethink, and that is what is happening. So that is why we are rethinking of becoming a biomimic, trying to emulate back what is nature through nature-based solutions, and so on and so forth. Or for that matter, I will just say, have we not been doing these things in this world? Think of Sri Lanka itself. Our technology, our abilities, if you are calling a technology as a manipulation of something that is in nature or not in nature for the benefit of mankind. But we want a technology that is a manipulation of nature without destruction to the future. Think of whether such things have not happened in this country. Think of our hydrologic civilization, and I'm not going to have time to explain to you all of those things, but I'm going to give you the seed to think. Think of the hydrological civilization in this country. We are the highest hydromechanics of land use in the world. I'm not wrong if I say that. How did we do that? By understanding nature. How did we build structures on which we had the time to do art? People go to the South American countries like Peru and go to Machu Picchu and say, fantastic civilization, all of those things. But you come shift towards the east, you see, we have had fantastic civilizations and massive structures, but with it comes something very, very unique in the Eastern cultures. Shifting somewhere from the Middle East towards the East, which is structure and art. You can't do art if you are not content. You can't do art if you didn't have time in your hands. So think about those things. I would say, philosophically, that we in the East did understand nature much, much better than that civilizations of the West. Not the current West, but even the past West. And we were able to survive and use a civilization much, much bigger. And it is that stick which you just mentioned, which changed the world today. And the stick is going to change the world into the future if we do not manipulate the stick into the future.
Hello, sir.
Yes, Adib.
I'm really sorry, sir. Facing so with the power cut. So I'm really extremely sorry for any inconvenience today. So I think you get so many get knowledge and inspire and thought-provoking session today we had. And so on behalf of the Nature Talks 2025 organizing team and GAP HQ, we extend our heartfelt gratitude to our Professor Sarath Kotagama for his powerful insights and reminding us for the deep wisdom held within nature and our responsibility to protect it. And thank you, sir, for sharing your lifelong passion and knowledge with such clarity and care. Your words have truly planted new seeds of thought in all of us. And also to our wonderful audience, thank you for joining us. Your questions, your curiosity and your passion, your commitment to learning. So it's your presence that give life to this platform. So we also invite you all to submit your research papers to the upcoming second International Conference on Biomimicry for Sustainability 2025 happening this September. So the deadline is 30th June for the full papers and abstract. So you can find full conference details and submission guideline on our website, www.biomimicryconference.com. And don't forget, our next session is coming up on the 6th of June. And we warmly invite you to join us once again as we continue exploring nature-inspired solutions. Until then, stay inspired, stay connected, and keep listening to nature. Thank you and have a good night. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.